Welcome everybody to the February 2013 meeting of Manhattan Community Board 1's Land Use, Zoning, and Economic Development Committee. I'm Patrick Cannell, chair of the committee. My co-chair, Laura Starr, if she's not on the call right now, will be joining us soon, I assume. We have no resolutions anticipated, but one item on our agenda tonight, which is a presentation by John Sanchez, the executive director of Five Borough Housing Movement, to talk about adaptive reuse and affordable housing proposals for office conversions. As some of you probably know from following the news, the governor and the mayor released a report in December which toyed around with and renewed the idea of more office conversions to help with the housing problem throughout the city, and that those conversions wouldn't necessarily be strict affordable housing. It's a mix, but we're going to hear from John and get a little bit more educated on some of these components. And lastly, I just wanted to note that we had invited our old friend Basha Gerhard who's now with REBNY, but was with the Manhattan Borough President's office at the time, but unfortunately she couldn't make it. But no consolation prize, we do have John with us. So John, if you would like to take it away, the way we'll work this and the way we work most of our meetings is we'll let you present, go on for, if you can keep it to 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes or shorter, great. And then once you're done with your presentation, we'll go around the virtual room for committee member questions and then other CB1 members questions, and then open it up, see if there's any members of the public who want to talk about it as well. So with that, John, take it away.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to present. My name is John Sanchez. I was formerly the district manager of Bronx Community Board 6 for 5 years, and now I'm the executive director of the Five Borough Housing Movement. I'm going to share my screen now so you can all see the presentation. All right, so for today, we're going to be talking about an affordable housing proposal for office conversions. As I mentioned, I'm John Sanchez. I'm running the Five Borough Housing Movement. And the Five Borough Housing Movement is a group of labor groups, civics groups, nonprofits. It's run by a 3-person board, Carlos Cesaro from the New York Building Congress, also from Brooklyn, former New York Assembly member Marcos Crespo from the Bronx, and Melva Miller, who's currently the CEO of ABNY. I just want to give some background before we get into the presentation. New York's not building enough housing, and we know that there's a severe housing crisis across the city. Cities across the nation are building more than us, especially in the South, whether it be Houston, Dallas, Atlanta, Miami. And also, housing production is unequal in New York City. If you look at this charts the new housing units produced from 2010 to 2019. As you can see, 10 of the 59 community boards account for nearly half of the new housing. And that's not an equitable way to have housing, if only...
John, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Lucian, I'm not seeing the presentation on the screen. I don't know if I'm the only one.
I have it.
We're seeing it.
Have it.
We're seeing it, Patrick.
Very strange. I don't know why I'm not. Okay, carry on. Sorry, John.
You may have to flip a screen, Patrick.
Yeah, I'll figure it out. Don't worry about me. Go ahead. Sorry, John.
Yeah. In an ideal situation, we'd have a pie chart that's a lot more distributed where each neighborhood's doing a part of it and not a part that you can't even see on the chart. But this is even more pronounced when we're talking about affordable housing construction. If you look at the deep red, these are council districts that produce more than 3,000 units of affordable housing. And you see that we have some blue, unfortunately. And if we want to solve the housing crisis, we need every neighborhood to do some part of its share for affordable housing. So what does Five Borough Housing Movement advocate for? In year one, we're focused on state law. We want to change the state multiple dwelling law to allow the flexibility for offices to convert to housing if they so choose. We also want to look at accommodating the state FAR cap to see if there's opportunities for more housing to be built. And the third thing is that we want to see a tax incentive for those permanently affordable housing units that are a part of any conversions. As Patrick mentioned, a lot of this work comes from the New New York panel that was convened by both the governor and the mayor. And their number one goal was to reimagine the business districts. And that looked at reimagining what does the new office environment look like? If we understand people aren't working in the office 5 days a week, what opportunities are there to make sure that we have neighborhoods that people can work, live, and play? The city of New York released an adaptive reuse study about 3 weeks ago, looking into how feasible it is for offices to convert to apartments. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the barriers to conversion. We understand not every building will want to convert. If you look at type 1, these are the type of office buildings that you may see in Community Board 1. The large loft windows, it already looks like an apartment in some cases. These types of offices are most likely to convert because they have smaller floor plates and they have less of the obstacles listed here. Type 2 and type 3, these are buildings that have bigger floor plates. They don't have operable windows. These buildings you're more likely to see in Midtown, East, or West. They're less likely to convert, but we think a combination of all three types could convert, and we just want to give them the opportunity to convert. If you ask me who can convert their office today, it depends. Right now, the way the state law is written, if a building's built before 1961, it has flexibility to convert. If it's built between 1961 and 1977, it can't convert unless if it's in Lower Manhattan below Murray Street. If the building's built after 1977, it cannot convert no matter what. What the city's proposing and what we agree with is that there should be a standard uniform rule. They're recommending that there be a threshold of buildings before 1990, they have the opportunity to convert. Again, it's not a mandate, it just gives them the option. The other thing is the FAR cap. And I'm going to go into this visually, but the FAR cap is a limit on how many apartments can be on a floor in a building. This chart shows high density census tracts within New York City. Most of them are in Manhattan, south of 96th Street. There are some pockets in downtown Brooklyn and some in Long Island City. Generally, this is a state rule that limits how much housing we can have, rather than allowing the city to determine where it makes the most sense. I'm going to get into some visual examples so you can see. Again, the FAR cap, it's the floor area ratio. It's the total floor area, the square feet of all the floors in the building, divided by the square feet of the lot. So here's a visual. The first example, all of these buildings have a FAR of 1. The first example is 1 story. The third example is 4 stories. So you see that the FAR cap isn't a height cap, it's really a cap on how many apartments can be on each floor. This is even more evident when we look at example 2. All 3 buildings of these, all 3 examples have the same FAR. One is 2 stories, one is 8 stories. It's really about how much square footage of the lot is covered and how many apartments are there. To give you some Manhattan and Bronx examples, buildings such as Manhattan Plaza and Hell's Kitchen, Tracy Towers in the Bronx, several Mitchell-Lama buildings across the city could not be built today because they surpassed the existing state FAR cap. And this is a rule that was passed in 1961. The city was a lot different then. Here are some more examples of how FAR works. You can see different configurations of how a building looks. Some are straight, 4 or 5 stories. Some are split, so they can look taller than others. So when we explain FAR, it's really not about height. It's really about density and how many apartments are on each floor. And now we're going to talk about the 421G program, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. This is a similar program that the city and state passed from 1995 to 2006, and it was for Lower Manhattan. And it produced about 13,000 units. 9,600 were rentals, 3,000 were condos. Relatively successful. The key difference between this program and what we're advocating for is that we want to see an affordability component as part of any conversions. The governor has a proposal to allow for 20% of an office conversion to be affordable, and to specify her initial numbers are from 40% AMI to 100% AMI. That's a household income of $48,000 for a family of three to no more than $120,000 for a family of three. A wide range of incomes. We know that the legislature will negotiate specific numbers, but we like the idea of having some affordability, whatever that number may be. These are some more benefits that we think this can happen. We think, allowing more housing, especially in Manhattan, it can increase transit ridership, more commercial activity, better quality of life because there's more eyes on the street, and not having vacant office buildings. And of course, the construction workforce can also rebuild by working on these conversions. This is the last slide. It just talks about some of the members of our coalition. The Downtown Alliance is a partner of our coalition, Grand Central Partnership, Garment District Alliance, even community boards. We've received 3 letters from community boards so far, all in the Bronx, but we're also making our rounds to Manhattan, Queens, and Brooklyn. We have environmental groups such as Urban Green Council and the New York League of Conservation Voters, because oftentimes it's less carbon intensive to retrofit a building rather than do brand new ground up construction. We also have partners such as the NAACP. We realize that office conversions will not solve the housing crisis, but it can make a dent in it. And that's what we're hoping to do, and we hope to have your support as well. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, John. I appreciate the brevity too. We're going to go through committee members first. And I actually have, well, I'll save my questions till the end. So, okay, no committee members with hands up at the moment. So I'm going to start with, Richard Corman does. Richard, you get the privilege of going first. Then I'm going to go with Justine, then Jill Goodkind, then Tammy.
Thanks, Patrick, and thank you, John, for this presentation. There are a few things I'd like to, I'm not sure what questions I have at the moment, but I think I'll get to them. The first thing that I'd like to say is certainly in terms of office conversions, it's been a phenomenal success here in Lower Manhattan, and really transformed some of our neighborhoods from desolate areas. And I would love to think that adaptive reuse can be applied in many, many cases and be a really good way for us to get affordable housing, especially if it's absolutely required, permanent, low income, moderate income, affordable housing through adaptive reuse. I think that would be a great thing. And the 421G program, I think most people acknowledge, was pretty successful, except in terms of the most people that I speak to, it just gave far too much away for what we got as the public. And in terms of negotiating, that would be an important aspect of that. I take exception to the way you characterize the FAR. The FAR doesn't generate more apartments for floor area. What it does is allow more height. Just what you said it doesn't do, that's exactly what it does do. And what I'm a little bit concerned about in your presentation is that you don't really take into account density and areas of the city where we have very low density and therefore much greater opportunity for affordable housing, as opposed to Manhattan, which of course we have such high density already. And the idea of building whatever, FARs higher than 12, we could be getting typically those very tall buildings, which we already have too many of. So I would like to know what your thinking is about how to generate more housing, particularly in the outer boroughs where density is so much lighter than in Manhattan, and any other comment you have about the FAR. Sorry for taking so long on that, but this is near and dear to many of our hearts, affordable housing, particularly and let me just throw one more thing in there. I'm part of a coalition for 100% affordable housing at 5 World Trade Center. And I would like to know what your position is and to what degree you're prepared to support that endeavor with us.
Great. So I'll touch on the FAR. So the chart that I showed that there were different heights of different buildings with the same FAR. The FAR, as we saw in the calculation, is the square footage divided by the square footage of the lot. Now, in terms of lower density areas, I agree with you. I think there should be housing all across the city, but we're specifically talking about office conversions. And because of the state FAR cap, I'll give you an example. If a building that is a commercial building right now has an FAR cap of 15 as a commercial building, if the owner wanted to convert it to 100% housing, it could not convert all of the 15 FAR to residential because of the FAR cap. That's one obstacle with the state law. Now, when we're talking about new construction, just because the FAR cap is lifted doesn't mean tall buildings go up immediately. The good thing is that we do have a city review process, and the city would have to pursue a rezoning to actually change the allowance of buildings that surpass the 12 FAR cap. All lifting the FAR cap on the state level does is allow the city to determine, okay, where does more density make sense and where does it not make sense? If the state FAR cap is lifted tomorrow, nothing changes because the city still has the power to determine, does it make sense or does it not make sense? In terms of affordable housing at 5 World Trade Center, we're focused exclusively on office conversions. We'd love to see more affordable housing as a part of conversions and throughout the city. But we're really focused on office conversions because it's timely with growing vacancies of commercial properties in Manhattan, but also there are some commercial properties in the Bronx, such as the Hub area, downtown Flushing, and Jamaica, where stakeholders have expressed interest in being able to convert. But right now, the state law prohibits them from converting because the buildings were built past 1961. We want to change some of these rules and allow the city to have some more flexibility.
Thanks for your answers.
Thanks, Sean. Justine, I'm going to ask if Tammy can just jump you in line for a second. I know she's got to run to another meeting. So
Totally fine.
Tammy and
also
then
let me-
Justine.
There's also some other committee members. I can wait.
Thanks a lot. Sorry, guys, I have to run to the Hudson River Park Advisory Council tonight. Thank you very much, John, for joining us. I'm Tammy. I'm chair of the community board. I wanted to double check on a couple of things. Can you elaborate a little bit about the Murray Street border in terms of north and south and what that means for all buildings built, I believe, prior to 1977? And secondarily, what I'm starting to see news pop up in Bloomberg and other locations are now developers who are looking at the potential for the drive for housing, looking to buy commercial properties with as is, and only convert the top half to luxury, right? There's no requirement. It doesn't kick in MIH. So we're sort of stuck in this, what a great idea. Lower Manhattan needs housing. The office buildings are, frankly, the article said the gentleman was like, it's a great opportunity to buy office buildings. You can keep offices in the bottom and luxury housing in the top, which does nothing to help the socioeconomic diversity that we're looking to get back to where we were, nor does it help with congestion in terms of people traveling and transit and things like that. So I wondered if you could elaborate on the first and comment on the second.
Yeah, so in terms of the boundaries of Murray Street, it's written in the city charter that buildings built pre-1977 south of Murray Street can convert. So essentially, most of the office space in Community Board 1 can already convert as of right to residential. But as you mentioned, Madam Chair, there is no affordability requirement. We want to see an affordability component as a part of this. I can even point to a specific example in your community board. 25 Water Street is slated to be converted into residential, an $800 million project with 1,200 apartments, but there is no affordability. We think, some building owners may want to convert and not provide any affordability. We're advocating for a tax incentive to ensure that there is some affordability to have that income diversity that you mentioned. In terms of building owners purchasing buildings and then keeping some as office and converting others to office. I mean, that's not what we're advocating for. And if they want to do that, we don't want them to get a tax incentive for it. I think MIH is a good tool with the rezoning to allow some affordability. And I think the state can negotiate more affordability. Right now, the governor's proposing 20% affordability, ranging from incomes from 48,000 to 120,000. We have no preference in terms of how deep the affordability is or how many units. We just want to make sure that there is some affordability so that we don't repeat what happened with 421G. But the ideal is more housing. We don't want people buying buildings to just convert the top half. We want to see some affordable units as well. But we can't control that. We're sure the legislature is going to negotiate, but all we can do is advocate.
Thank you. And then lastly on that, Community Board 1 in particular is one of the most rent burdened in the city with some of the highest incomes. So I challenged the 125K as a number based on what we're currently at. It's a good number, but isn't that for a family of 4, if I believe?
So the way the governor's proposal, and remember, the numbers I'm speaking about are in the governor's budget proposal. They'll probably be adjusted after working with the two houses. Right now, her legislation says that 5% of any conversions that receive a tax incentive would have to be at 40% AMI or less. So 48,000 for a family of 3 or less. The average has to be 70% AMI. So 86,000 for a family of 3. The building cannot have AMIs higher than 100%, which is an income of 120,000 for a family of 3. So it is a family of 3 for 120,000. For a family of 4, it'd be slightly higher.
Thank you very much. I know I'll have more to ask, but I'll listen to the recording and hope everybody else asks some fantastic questions,
Okay,
including timelines and swiftness. And thank you for joining us this evening. I apologize, I have to run.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thanks, Tammy. Justine, you were next and Jill was after you. And then I want to go with committee members, Joel, Vicky, and Michael Kramer, please.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Thank you, John, for the presentation. I have a question just because I'm trying to make notes of it. I have questions on top of it, but just clarifying what you just answered, Tammy. You said that 5% would be 40% of AMI. And then what else?
Or less.
Sorry? Or
It would
less,
be,
okay.
yes.
And then how much percent?
So for the affordable units, the average of the affordable units has to be no higher than 70% AMI.
Average, no high. And how much are we talking about for the building, though?
So the governor's proposing, as part of any conversions, if you get the tax incentive, at least 20% of the building is affordable. Of
Okay.
course, if a building owner did more, then there would be more units.
Got it. Okay, so I guess what I want to do is just sort of ask you about, I guess it's difficult to take neighborhood by neighborhood, but as Tammy pointed out, we are in Lower Manhattan, the most rent burdened neighborhood. And we also have so many empty luxury housing right now. So to me, I think it's a failed proposal or a broken proposal to suggest building only 20% affordable. And great that you want to put in 20% under 70, because you've got the 5 at 40% AMI or less, no higher for 70% AMI or less. So you're looking at 20% under $120,000 of income, because that I think was 100% AMI. What I would say to you is that anything less than 50% or 60% is just not impactful, especially when you're converting large office buildings in Lower Manhattan. Now, it may be a totally different story in the Bronx, it may be a different story in Jamaica, Queens, it may be someplace else, but here in Lower Manhattan, we do not need one more luxury housing built at all. We need to fill what's there first, and we don't. So we've got people who who are rent burdened and being forced out of their homes right now by rents or by taxes, but it's a different story. And you're going to be proposing to build more under the I'm going to say the guise, because I know you're trying to do the right thing. So I applaud the effort, but you're not there yet. I know you're trying to do the right thing. 20%
So,
of affordable housing is just too low. So I guess my question to you is, what can you do with the incentives to, number one, make it permanent affordability? Because that's something else that I wanted to say. I know I'm talking too much, but go ahead, ask me that.
so again, we're advocating for affordability. We're not going to be at the state legislature negotiating the numbers. Um, the governor and the state, they'll be negotiating. But I'd say, I think deeper affordability is important. I think that's something that we will be advocating for. But also, the governor's proposal suggests that the affordable units would only be rent stabilized for the duration of the tax incentive. And that's something we actually disagree with. We want it
Yes,
to be permanently affordable for the affordable
correct.
units. We want them to be permanently rent stabilized. So on that specific issue, we do have a disagreement with the governor's office. And in terms of the parameters of how much affordability, what the incentive looks like, that's going to be negotiated in Albany. We just don't want affordability to be thrown out when budget negotiations happen. And you mentioned that there are some empty luxury buildings. Well, we also have some empty commercial spaces right now that aren't being
Definitely.
used. And we think having housing as a part of that is a part of the solution. It's not going to solve everything. There's going to be a lot more housing needed, but it would be a shame if these vacant offices stay vacant for another 10 years rather than being revitalized like what happened in Lower Manhattan.
Well, that's that sentiment I agree with 100%. And I'm finishing up, Patrick. I know I'm taking too long, but that sentiment is very, very important, and it has been successful in Lower Manhattan. But you touch on 2 points. Part of what is destroying neighborhoods and destroying the fabric of our lives down here in Lower Manhattan is the fact that the 421A or 421G plans, whatever they were in effect, they sunset. So you had affordability for 20 years, just long enough to have kids, get them into college, and then you got to get out because you can't afford to live here. And it destroys the whole character of the neighborhood. It makes a place where the kids can't even come back to live in the neighborhoods they grew up in. So permanent affordability is vital, number one. And then I will tell you again, I get that you're saying that the numbers will be hammered out in the legislature. Go big. Don't go into there going small. Go big. Go 50%, 60% and see what happens, because the legislature is also looking for guidance, and they need support, and they need direction. And this is something that, especially in Lower Manhattan, but I think every place, you know, even if you put this in Staten Island or Brooklyn or any place else, having multi-level of affordability is important. So it's not all about only 20%, 30%, 40% AMI, but get some upper middle class in there, and of course some luxury. You want to have the whole gamut. And the benefit of doing that in a tall building in Lower Manhattan is you're creating a socioeconomically diverse neighborhood by 1 or 2 or 3 office conversions. You're changing the character of the neighborhood and making it more diverse because there's just so many darn people. Thank you.
Yes, Justine, I think we're saying the same things in different ways, but I don't really have a disagreement with what you're saying.
Thanks, Justine. Jill, and then Joel, Vicky, and Michael Kramer.
Hi, John. With all due respect, you do position yourself and your group as affordable housing advocates. But from what you've said and what I've seen on your website, you don't advocate for any particular number. But what you're saying is that the government goes for 20%. That's fine with you. I don't think any affordable housing advocate thinks 20% is enough. If you're advocating, why aren't you advocating for 40% or 50%? I honestly don't think an affordable housing advocate would ever say 20% is enough. Further, you say you want to see it as a component, but not a requirement. You want to see a tax break, but it appears from what you're saying, you're not positioning your group to say any required, that the landlord is required from your position to include this. So while you can punt, so to speak, to the legislator to determine the minimum, as an affordable housing advocate, don't you think 20% is a very low number? Second, from what you said about FAR to increase the number of apartments, would that not then increase the number of smaller apartments, i.e., one bedrooms and studios, and create less family apartments, which is what we need? Thank you. Those are my two questions.
Yeah, so in terms of the 20% being enough or is it not enough? I mean, obviously, we want to see as much as possible. And
But what do you want to see? You're affordable. You lead with affordable housing. It's in your title of all your materials. You're positioning yourself not as
Jill, we got to let him answer, please.
okay.
yeah, so I think it's important to just to give some background. Mandatory inclusionary housing on the city level, which requires 25% as a part of any rezoning, that's the most aggressive program in the entire country. And what I fear is that a requirement is so stringent on the state level where building owners of offices say, you know what, I'm just not going to convert the office. Now, obviously, if the state says we want 40% as a part of any tax incentive, that will require a deeper incentive, but we're not going to be opposed to that. I want to see the greatest amount of affordability that actually yields housing versus a program that sounds great, but no housing is actually built from conversions. So, and I'd also say, we don't lead with affordable housing. We want more affordable housing, yes, but we understand that market rate is a part of allowing more housing, and that there are parts of the city where a $3,000 rent is not unheard of, and where there are people that make the incomes that can afford a $3,000 rent, and they're going to look for apartments throughout the city. So there needs to be apartments
5,000
for them
for
as
one
well.
bedroom down here, but okay.
And in terms of the smaller bedrooms and the FAR and smaller units, I mean, that's going to be up to the building owner. I mean, they can say we want more one bedrooms, or they can say they want more 2 and 3 bedrooms. We're not trying to prescribe what they build. We're just trying to ensure that there's some affordability as a part of some conversions.
Weak answer, but thank you.
Okay, Joel, then Vicky, then Michael Kramer, and Mariama, I see you've placed your hand up.
Hi, John, Joel. Just want to talk to you coming from a little bit of a different direction. I think unless you really incentivize building owners, and this of course went on back in, when Carl Weisbrot took over the Downtown Alliance, we were converting Class C and Class B buildings to residential, and that's how downtown flipped really from residential, from just business to residential. But what's happening now with a lot of these buildings, unless you really make it palatable for the owner, they're flipping these buildings to hotels. A lot of these buildings that were standing here empty are now these beautiful hotels. We have more hotels in Lower Manhattan. I think the last count was over 35 than anywhere in the city. So you're going to have to get to the point where the owner says, you know what, I can make more money, or I could do better with the 80-20 or 40-60, whatever that might be. Because right now, all they're doing is putting up beautiful skyscraper hotels where they're getting a large income from their food and beverage, from the bars, from parties they may have or host. So you have a little competition as far as that goes. And you really need to think about, you're losing a lot of that square footage, especially downtown, to conversions to hotels and other properties, large venues as well. So have you thought about that at all?
Yes, Joel, and I think I agree with your point. I mean, the cost of conversion has to be cheaper than the rents that can be generated from the building. It has to make financial sense for a building owner, whether they convert to housing, whether they convert to a hotel, or whether they decide to sell their building. That's why we think that a tax incentive for affordability is going to be required south of 96th Street, because if you look at the conversions happening now south of 96th Street, they're all market rate. I mentioned 25 Water. I understand the real estate south of 96th Street is very valuable, and left to their own devices, building owners will probably just do all market rate or sell to a hotel, as you mentioned. That's why we're supportive of some type of tax incentive to have some affordability, to make it, lucrative for building owners to want to have some affordable units rather than sell to become a hotel. But that's why we're supportive of that. We're on the same page. We want to see more housing, but there building owners.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joel. Vicky, Michael Kramer, then Mariama.
Thanks, Patrick. John, thanks for being here. I have a two-part thing. John, this is my industry. This is, as an architect, I work for these folks. And I'll tell you, over 3 decades of offering incentivization for owners to provide affordable housing has exhausted me as a human being. As an architect, keeps me busy. But I just want you to know, we have given everything and we get very little in return. So I have to support my fellow board members here. When I say that definition of affordability has to change, 20% is nothing. And I want you to understand that there are professionals, especially single women, right? For whatever reason, not married or divorced, who typically make less money. 120,000 in Lower Manhattan is considered a really skimpy salary, and you are not able to afford a studio, which goes 4,500 and 5,000, and you need to make 40% of that, right? So do you see how those calculations of 20% affordability for a family of 4 at 70% of AMI just doesn't work, John? Like, it doesn't. And this is why I think we're trying to tell you to take a bigger bite and go for like the stratosphere and see where we land. I also want to tell you, John, that again, this is what I do. So when you bring families, for example, at 70% of AMI at 3 or 4, do you understand that everything provided in a community like FIDI is so expensive that you can't afford? I keep saying in Orange, what are you going to do? Divide it between 3 kids? So we have to consider all of these things when we're trying to create diversity, and diversity is like it's the most important thing that we can have in our city. Lastly, I want to say just one thing to my fellow board members. Richard, when you said FAR, I want you to all understand that FAR is part of zoning, but we also have building code. And when you're laying out a building, there's a certain depth that only works. An apartment only works from the window 25 feet in, because that is the maximum depth you can have with natural light and ventilation. And then you get a corridor, and then you get another 25 feet, and that's it, folks, unless you do a 40-foot courtyard, which is minimum for a fire department. So when John was describing all the little variances on how you get a tall building, you see why some of these zoning and then building code and the fire regulations, complex rules that drive what the actual configuration of the building is on a site lot. Anyway, my last comment, John, is again, having dealt with this for 3 decades, please ask for the stratosphere just so that we can maintain the smallest we can above 20%. Thank you.
No, I appreciate the comment, and I think I agree with your last point. There are some rules and regulations on the city and state level that make building more housing more expensive and less plentiful. And in terms of the affordability, again, we're not in disagreement. The legislature is going to negotiate that. I wish I could be in the governor and the assembly speaker and state senate leader asking for more. But also, I'm very well aware that if there's an insistence that there's 50% affordable units, it's going to require a deep incentive as part of any conversions, because right now, building owners can do market rate conversions and not to deal with anything.
Market rate conversions, we're running out of people who can afford that. And I do a lot of hotels as well as resis. And hotels are squeaking as well. While we have a lot of hotel development, you know, there was that whole group in the last couple of years that went crazy doing hotels. Now the hotel owners that I'm speaking to are like, oh, I don't know what to do. It's just not great. You know, either that or their restaurants are not working. It's not as easy as it looks. And a lot of owners would rather get something than sit on empty office buildings. So we do have an upper hand right now. And I think what we're saying is that we're all used to hearing 20%. We're all used to hearing these silly numbers of AMI, right? Like 48,000 for a family of 2 or 3. Oh my God, who can live on that in New York City? So what we're saying is that now if you're going to go out and advocate for this, 20% is not enough. We're used to that.
Hey, if
Thank you.
Community Board 1 is willing to join me to ask for more, we
We
can make that
certainly
happen.
are. Say what you need and we're there.
Okay.
100%, John.
No kidding.
Okay. Michael Kramer, then Mariama.
All right, I guess I have two concerns. The first concern has been expressed by Richard and others about the FAR, and you give the examples of Manhattan Plaza and Tracy Towers. Now, I grew up in the Bronx, and I know when Tracy Towers was built, and Tracy Towers is nothing to consider to be a model of what one should build in the Bronx. It's 400 feet. It's in the middle of nowhere, and it had no services in the neighborhood, and it really led to a rapid decline of that neighborhood in the Bronx. And with Manhattan Plaza, that was artist housing, and you know that's worked because it is 100% affordable. It was designed for a specific purpose for the creatives. But my second point I think is more important, which is I'm just looking at your leadership list of your 3-member board, and you know I'm seeing ABNY, the Association for a Better New York, and the New York Building Congress as being 2 of the 3 members, and you're the executive director. I mean, do you feel that you're sort of fronting for the landlords for the development community here, and they're telling you that you can only do 20% affordable? I mean, it's troubling.
Well, I mean, our other coalition members include the NAACP, Urban Green Council, New York League of Conservation Voters, Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce, Bronx Chamber of Commerce, and so on and so forth. The governor's initial proposal is 20%. That's the number that's our baseline that we get to work with. So when we're meeting with legislators, we can tell them, here's what the governor's proposing. What do you think about it? What about the prospects of having more? But the 5-borough housing movement, it really is a coalition of groups from throughout the 5 boroughs. Yes, the Building Congress is involved. Yes, nonprofits such as Breaking Ground, which specialize in supportive housing, are involved. It's a group of people that want to see more housing being built and see office conversions as one of the viable options that we have. We know it's not the only option. We know it's not the biggest option, but it's an option we can take advantage of now because of the post-pandemic environment we see ourselves in.
But in a sense, it's tunnel vision, because all you're talking about is raising FAR, and you're not talking about changing the building code, which would address some of Vicky's points.
Oh,
And
Michael.
you're not talking about, you know, giving the neighborhood all the amenities that it needs in order to accommodate a greater population. And if you
Yes.
did some work, you know, I suggest, I refer you to some studies that were done back in 2016 of the 421A program, and how it's been abused, and how it was really a giveaway for the taxpayers. And
So,
so
Michael,
I
in
think
year
you need
one,
to do your homework here.
in year one, we're actually focused on the state legislation, looking to change that. In year 2, we plan to work with the city council to change things such as building code, energy code, FDNY requirements, etc. We really view this as a 2-year project. So that's, you know, we're not neglecting the building code. We just want to get the state regulations out of the city's way so then the city can actually act and convert these offices and allow more housing to be built.
For the last 20 years, they've been trying to raise the FAR limit, and it's been successfully, beaten back up in Albany. And I'm not sure you're helping tenants by doing that.
All right. Thanks, Michael. Mariama, you're next, and then I see Justine, you have your hand up again, but well, okay. Oh, Mariama, where did you go?
I'm here.
Okay.
So my first comment is actually to you, as the chairman. I think that I feel like if there is going to be anything that we need to recommend or support or being asked to sign on to as a board, that we cannot do so. We absolutely must not do so without first some sort of counter presentation by an actual affordable housing advocacy group. I don't know if it was, and I'm saying this in part as the co-chair of Quality of Life, under which affordable housing actually falls. I don't know if it was the board or if it was the organization themselves that came up with the agenda item title, but I think it's misleading. And I agree with the many others who have also said that the description of FAR is misleading and sort of disingenuous here and may have been accidental. I don't know if we took it upon ourselves, but this is not an affordable housing forward presentation. This is a luxury housing forward presentation. And, Community Board 1 may be a bit of a unicorn with respect to the rest of the city, but we have a lot of different factors here that sort of make it really urgent that we build or create affordable housing specifically, not just housing. We do have a number of hotels that are in bankruptcy, that are in foreclosure. They're not finishing the building of those hotels. There are a number of luxury houses that are already empty and vacant and being warehoused by landlords and things and development companies. There are office buildings that are empty. Okay, the office building industry, so to speak, is defunct. It is done, at least right now, where the government is, where the nation is economically, with the Fed rates, climbing and everything. That industry, and after the pandemic, with all the people that have been done to work from home and all over the country, that industry is dead, at least temporarily. And I think that that's probably what brought the governor to bring it into her budget, something like this, because of what happened with Penn Station. Okay, she completely lost that deal that was supposed to be office, because office is nowhere. So as Vicky said, I think we have the upper hand here. I don't expect any threats of, oh, if you don't allow me to convert and not build any affordable housing unless you give me a tax break, I'm going to keep my office building, because keeping your office building hurts you. It's nonsensical at this point. So, and then the greatest thing, probably, part of this is the disparity in Lower Manhattan, Community Board 1 specifically. We have a 70% white population. We cannot continue to create these luxury homes that people of color cannot afford, that low-income people cannot afford. So now I also have to speak in part as district leader of this neighborhood. My district covers part of Side-Eye, part of Chinatown, part of LES. All these people are from Lower Manhattan, technically. They deserve to be able to remain in Lower Manhattan. Even if we build something in Community Board 1, Community Board 3 is affected, because people begin to migrate. This is how gentrification works. This is how first and second hand displacement works. It starts with something like this, with a proposal that looks innocent, unless you're actually reading between the lines. So I don't mean to go on, but I definitely think that if we're going to support anything or sign on to anything, that we have to get some real affordable housing advocates in here as a counter argument, and then make an informed decision as to on what side we stand. Thank you.
Right. Thanks, Mariama. Let me just clarify. We're not asking or being asked to do anything tonight. This is the beginning of a conversation. And when it comes to additional speakers and other points of view, absolutely, there'll be time to have those folks in, and we can talk offline and strategize among the CB1 leadership and executive committee to figure out who those parties are and how to best do that. So rest easy. It's not this is the beginning, and we're not endorsing one sort of thing over another or being asked to do that. Justine, you had your hand up again, and then Joel, I see. I'm not sure if yours is up again from before, but Lucian also would like an opportunity to speak. So actually, Justine and Joel, if you don't mind, maybe Lucian could go quickly now. I think his hand probably relates to
Yeah,
what
Lucian should go
Mariama was
first.
just talking about.
Thanks, Patrick. So just to clarify, I generated the title of this agenda item. I had read the report that was issued by the task force. I thought it was very relevant to CB1, and I pitched it to Patrick to see if he would be interested in having his committee. There had been some talk about adaptive reuse as a larger topic in CB1, so I wanted to make sure that we made it clear that this is an opportunity to discuss these concepts along with other land use related concepts that have huge implications for Lower Manhattan. So the state budget, as it's presented, the executive budget as presented by the governor, has big implications for Lower Manhattan and concepts that this committee and the larger board and community should be definitely very conversant in, because these are some things that you're going to want to speak to your elected officials or leaders about, and if so moved, to issue some sort of comment before, of course, April 1st, which is the day that the budget needs to be passed. When it comes to the FAR cap, FAR in general, I'll just say that we don't have a lot of experience with MIH in this district. The big reason is that most of this district is not eligible for mandatory inclusionary housing, because to get mandatory inclusionary housing, and that maybe just break that down for a second, that is a zoning requirement that when anyone builds any sort of housing, if there's an MIH underlying component to it, that means that there's no choice, but they have to develop some percentage of units that are income restricted according to what the council member decides. You can't do that in the bulk of Lower Manhattan, because Lower Manhattan is already at an R10 equivalent in most of its commercial districts. So if you want to have MIH in Lower Manhattan, and that is any new residential building that's developed to have a requirement for on-site or nearby, depending on how you do it, affordable housing or income restricted housing, then you have to be able to go above the current upper ceiling. So that's number one. Number two, to have the commercial conversion, to have an office building become a residential building that's greater than the current FAR 12 cap that is enforced upon the city by the state. There's also other opportunities, as John mentioned, local zoning, like requiring some sort of certification or some other sort of zoning mechanism to maybe click MIH into effect on individual sites. I mean, there certainly is a lot of room for creativity here, but what I want to impress upon all of you is that this is the opportunity to opine. If you want to have MIH, if you want to be limited to its applicability or the applicability or the implications of an FAR ceiling heightening or overall removal or conditional removal, however you do that, I want people to start thinking about what that looks like in all of your minds, because as it stands right now, the only place to squeeze out mandatory inclusionary zoning in this district are the areas that are not at R10 already. And so I'll leave you all to kind of think about what the implications of that are, but that's what I'll leave you with. And thank you, Patrick.
Thanks, Lucian. An important point about how we're talking about a larger ball of wax, and this is one component within it. Justine, I'm also going to ask you to just be patient with me. Joe Lerner, who hasn't had a chance to ask any questions yet, has his hand up and would like to go. So I'll go Joe, then Justine, and then we do have a member of the public who's been very patiently waiting with his hand up throughout the presentation. So Joe?
Well, I don't have a question, but I want Mr. Sanchez, who's testing the waters here, to know how we feel. And so they better get a microscope and look into what they're doing, because we've stated our position quite well by all our members. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Justine?
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Patrick, and no indulgence at all. I appreciate you calling me again. I just wanted to kind of follow up a little bit of what Mariama was saying and suggest perhaps whether we have them come to our committee, but I also suggest to you, John, that maybe you look at the Association for Neighborhood and Housing Development, ANHD, as an entity that is out there leading housing advocacy. It's a leading housing advocacy organization and an umbrella group of about 100 nonprofit affordable housing and economic development groups that serve low and moderate income residents in all 5 boroughs of the city. And that might be a voice that would lend some knowledge and information to us, certainly as a board, but also to your team, John, because what Joe is saying, and I think you're going to get a different sense from different community boards, but clearly here in Lower Manhattan, the message we're telling you is we do not want more luxury housing. And so the governor's proposal falls flat, okay? So, I appreciate your coming in and lobbying for something that's maybe going to challenge that a little bit or broaden it. It needs to be ripped up and start from scratch. And the governor needs to look at this and say, okay, we need 20% luxury housing to help afford the buildings go forward, 20%. And the 80% is mandatory inclusive housing or whatever it is, where it's tiered. So I'm not saying to everybody that you have to have everybody in there at, 40% or lower. No, you have levels. And if you start doing that with every darn conversion, because you're 100% right, we need to get some of these things converted, hotels as well as office buildings in Lower Manhattan. But it is not okay to be building more luxury housing here or pretty much any place else in Manhattan, in Manhattan, certainly. Thank you. And thank you, Patrick, for your patience.
Thanks, Justine. John, if you want to, you don't have to, but if you wanted to address any of the comments so far. In the meantime, we're going to move to Ken Gill, who's a member of the public who's joined us, and I'm going to see if Lucian can get him unmuted or move him over or whatever needs to be done.
And you should be able to unmute.
Mr. Gill?
You're muted now, Ken.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you for giving me just a moment here. I am a candidate at NYU Wagner. Urban planning, adaptive reuse is something that I'm particularly focused on, and I think that one of the real benefits that sort of wasn't yet covered is actually the environmental benefit of embodied carbon. So the environmental benefit of not actually building new buildings. It's actually 11% of the world's carbon emissions is from building new buildings, and then another 28% from operating them, oftentimes inefficiently. So I think anytime we talk about adaptive reuse, I think that's an important thing to consider, in addition to all of the very, very important things that have been brought up here with respect to affordability. And I this is my first time at a board, so I don't know if you usually beat presenters up, but John, I think that you did a good job, and it was clear to me anyway, that you were describing the concept and quoting the 20% based on the governor's proposals, not that it was something that you as an organization were proposing. Thank you. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. And I will just push back gently on the notion that John is being beaten up. He's being challenged. Community Board 1 is very well known for challenging our speakers and presenters. And I think we take quite a bit of pride as a board in having such passionate and smart members who can do that thoughtfully, because they're subject matter experts as much as they are advocates. So I know John's a big boy and he can handle it. And of course he was a district manager, so I'm sure he's seen his share of beating ups.
This is a
Um,
familiar environment to me. I
yeah.
welcome it, so I appreciate it.
Very good. And if you think we're rough, you should see things in Albany. Okay, so Joel, your hand is still up, but I think you indicated you're good. Thumbs up if I'm correct. Can't quite see. Or you can unmute and ask your question if you wish. Right.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, thanks. So seeing no other hands, I want to thank John for coming. I said earlier that I might have some questions, and I think other folks have sort of covered the ground. My concerns are in the broader sense around, what are we doing with office conversions if we're just going to sort of let that go freely without a lot of guardrails in place, because we've seen a lot of that happen over the last 10 to now, 20 years in the financial district in Lower Manhattan, particularly. And while it's been successful, part of being the victims of our own success is that we've suffered from a lack of city services and a lack of planning and a lack of even simple zoning things, what like Vicky mentioned, manipulating the zoning a bit. We don't have the proper garbage pickup. And I know that may seem trivial in light of very real and very serious affordable housing issues, but they're also something that needs to be put into the mix. You can't just plop a bunch of housing down and as Michael pointed out earlier, not expect the services to be there, the schools, the trash pickup, et cetera, et cetera. So those are things we're going to be thinking about. I would expect we'll pick this conversation back up at our March committee meeting, possibly even do a resolution. We can sort of talk about what that will look like at the next meeting, and we'll talk as an executive committee and our full board about what other speakers we might want to see with different viewpoints, to Mariama's point earlier, because it's an important issue. So I want to thank Lucian for putting it on our radar and trying to help us see it coming down the pike. With that, we have no other items on our agenda, so thank everybody for coming. We're adjourned.
Thank you,
Thank you.
John.
Thank you for the opportunity. Have a great night, everyone.
Thanks very
Thank
much,
you
John.
very much.
Night all.
Thank
Thank you
Thanks.
very much for
Patrick.
listening.
Yes,
And I'm
thank
hoping
you.
that we weren't too rough, but I think that you heard our position, right? So it's all good.
Loud and clear.
Loud and clear. Great. Thank you, John.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Good night.